Welcome back to Full Point, the Cebu Sports Show. I'm Nimrod Quinones, together with John Pajes here, our guest for this comeback episode here on myTV. So, if I have a kid who I want to get into tennis, what do I do?
Well, summer is really the best time because there's a lot of time. Unfortunately, because we don't have, although tennis, Cebu has many courts, but 1 or 2 courts, and on weekdays, if somebody wants to play tennis, normally these are occupied by the members. But summertime,
the adults.
The adults. So summertime is really the best time. Now, there will be several tennis camps that will be available in different clubs in the city. So I think number 1 would be to try to get into one of those summer clinics because as individual, a sport as tennis is, there's nothing like being with a group and learning the sport with other children.
You know, one thing that I did notice in, well, I've spent a lot of years going around Cebu as a journalist. And I've seen, well, in every town, there's always a tennis court.
Yeah.
Aside from the basketball court, tennis is like a sport that is somewhere, everywhere.
Yeah.
So, are there also clinics in the towns? If you know, if like for example, you come from a small town in the west or the south, are there also tennis clinics there?
I think there are also some. I think not in every town, but you're right. No, often right in front of the church or city hall.
Right.
There's a court there. So I think some have clinics around town, but I think a lot will be here in the city itself. Of Cebu, so a lot of options, and you know, as young as 4 or 5 or 6 years old, you can already enroll in a tennis clinic. My daughter Yana started actually at the age of 2. You know, just
about as old as Martina Hingis when she started. I think Martina started at 2.5.
It's important that you just enjoy and you be in the company of other children who are playing the game, and hopefully from that you'll also like the sport and then take it up more seriously.
If I like, for example, I have an 8-year-old kid and I want him or her to start playing tennis. So how much would probably be the minimum that I will have to shell out to buy the equipment, buy the proper gear, and pay for the tuition?
Trainer.
Yeah, or the trainer.
Well, maybe first you can borrow a racket. Maybe that would be a good first step because you don't really have to buy something right away, because what if your child after several sessions would really opt to try another if the child is quite young, it's also advisable to get a junior racket so that it's not too heavy, because if you have a 6-year-old and then you let him or her play with a very heavy racket, I'm sure that will strain the arm. So I think if you can borrow first, and then tennis balls are not that expensive, maybe 200 plus for 3. Again, maybe the tennis camp, summer is coming up. That's really the most inexpensive way to gain entry into tennis, because if you do one-on-one, often the trainers, they cost, maybe pay them 250 per hour, so it can be quite expensive. But the summer camps, sometimes you pay 1,500, but it's already for the full month, and it's also more fun when you're together.
Well, you know, one of the first sports equipments I bought my son, Nico, who is now 16, was a junior tennis racket. But
what was your experience then?
Well, I think he turned it into a guitar.
Strings, still the strings.
Well, well, you've been around town. You're actively involved with the local tennis scene. So, which tennis clinics do you suggest? Like, if for example, I want my kid to really become a serious player, so maybe my kid has already started playing tennis or is interested in tennis. So, what camps or where do you suggest should I bring my kid to?
I'm not sure exactly yet how many are offering, but I'm sure part of it would probably be the proximity. If it's nearer your place, then that would be good. I think somewhere in Pardo, maybe Alta Vista can also have one. I know
we're actually planning to have one for summer.
So it would be good if you're somewhere in the south to go there, because of course if you're near, that helps. I think Casino Espanol also has. Unfortunately, Suncase Tennis Club has closed. Probably Suson in Lahug, across JY Square. Most likely they will have
that small road there going inside.
Beside the at the back, there are 2 very nice courts there. For sure, the Cebu International Tennis Center in Consolacion, they have 8 courts there. They're going to have a full summer program. So that's a really good facility because they've got a lot of courts and a lot of coaches in one venue.
You mentioned Pardo. Of course, when you talk of Pardo tennis, there's one name that always stands out. That's Fritz Tubulin.
Yes. So Fritz, I think, will really be handling a camp. So Fritz actually was one of my coaches also when I competed junior level. So
okay.
That tells
you were
his
also
age.
ranked nationally.
I was number 5 in the Philippines, but my daughter has beaten me. She's now number 4 in the whole Philippines in her bracket. So very proud dad.
So that's what you call improving our race.
Yeah.
Well, of course, Fritz Tubulin has been, well, he's like a living legend of Cebu tennis when it comes to training.
Yes.
Of course, he produced a son who's also a major improvement.
Yes.
Ilak, I think, is now working abroad as a tennis coach.
In Dubai, I think. Yeah, and so he sees Federer and the others there in the tournaments.
So, we're not talking here about opportunities just to be a tennis player in our country, but also to go abroad in the future, like an overseas Filipino athlete, OFA, instead of an overseas Filipino worker.
OFA. You know, the good thing with tennis really, Nim, is it's really a sport for life. It's not just, you know, because very few can actually compete and do well nationally, but it's a sport that, you know, you still see 70, 80-year-olds who are still playing. So it's really, even just as a form of exercise, taking it up when you're still young, you can play the sport for a long, long time.
Well, I do remember growing up in the old Atlas mines in Toledo City that every night, when there was not much to do after school, we'd go to the recreation centers and the tennis courts were always full.
Yes.
There were a lot of people. So the kids, we ended up playing on the wall, trying to hit a tennis ball or trying to do something else with a tennis ball, like play dodgeball. But it was a fun experience, you know, being there and watching our dads play.
Yes.
Yeah. I'm sure your dad also, I mean, you watch your dad play. And
yes, that's how I started also the sport. So passing it on to the generation. So I think it's good to really start the children early if possible into any sport, whether it's tennis or any sport, because I think this is one of the best things that we can really, I think we both share this so strongly, Nim. One of the best things that we can teach our children is really to get into sports and do exercise.
That's right. And that's also one thing that we have been advocating for so many years now, long before we were even dads.
Yeah, that's true. Because we ourselves were athletes and
and we took it from our fathers probably. Although I lost my father when I was only 7 years old, but I did see him play tennis in the old Atlas mines, and that was one thing that really got me interested in sports.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much, John, for joining me here on my comeback episode. It's nice to be back, especially if I'm back with a very good friend, a cousin, and somebody who shares a lot of passions with me. So thank you again, John, for joining me here. And thank you, everyone. That has been FullPoint, the Cebu Sports Show. And I'm Nimrod Quinones. See you again next week.